It's in you. You possess the power.
No man is free who's not a master of himself. Epictetus. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast that helps you step up and be the leader that your team needs. I'm here to talk to you guys about winning the inner fight. Winning your inner fight. Okay. Last episode, I dove into how to get through hard times. And I shared some vulnerable stories from my own life from 2023 to 2026, how it was just a giant roller coaster ride. Business, life, every facet of my life had wins, it had losses, and I took you guys through that journey. So my promise in today's show is that I'm going to give you guys the tools to create change inside of your life. Now, whether you're in a spot of being stuck, or you're in a spot of complacency, or you're in a spot of just living in insanity, meaning every single day you're attempting to change your life, attempting to change something about you, and you keep failing over and over and over again, this is the show that's going to help you break free and create the change that you're looking for. Being stuck sucks. It sucks to be stuck in business. It sucks to be stuck in your career. And it sucks to be stuck with your happiness and just your overall feeling about yourself, you know? For some reason, high performers develop this mindset that suffering equals success. And the truth is that suffering sometimes is a requirement for success. But every single one of us high performers and high achievers, we deserve to feel good, man. Okay? My guess is that your issue is not achievement. My guess is your issue is in how you feel and the experience that you're getting from life. What I mean is that every day you wake up, you go to work, you clock in, you feel reactive, you're putting out fires, you're striving, you're achieving, but when you're left alone and you're left by yourself, you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel good about your life, and you feel some regret and remorse about how you're living and the experience that you're getting from life. And it's my guess that you want change. And that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to dive into creating your, not just change your life, but the transformation that you're looking for. Okay? I want you to wake up and feel good. I want you to wake up and just not just be happy with what you're doing with your life, but like I said, how you're feeling about your life. Okay? So the last episode that I did with you guys here on YouTube, and the last episode of Be the Leader, talked a lot about, you know, the external part of my world that came crumbling down from 2023 and 2026. What I didn't go into that I'm going to do in this show is talk a little bit more about what was going on inside of myself, because I know that many of you guys are going through the same internal struggles that I was, and some of it I still am. So we're going to be able to relate, and the inner fight that we all face every single day, it makes a tremendous difference on our quality of life, whether we win or whether we lose, right? It makes a huge difference. So a lot of people chase results. A lot of people measure success off of, you know, how much money is in the bank account, or what kind of car they drive, or the top line number of their business revenue, or what position they're holding in their career. But Tony Robbins once said, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I believe that, man. I believe that if we go through life trying to become successful, hitting these accolades and achievements, but inside we feel unfulfilled, we are a failure. Okay? So in order to create that fulfillment inside of us, we have to win the inner fight. Okay? In other words, you know, if your life is not growing in the way that you want it to grow, you could consider that a failure, regardless of how big your bank account is, regardless of how great your position at work is. We're always our happiest in life when we're growing, when we're pursuing our potential. And a big part of that the majority of us winning us pursuing our potential comes down to winning that inner fight. So I'm going to share a little bit about from 2023 to 2026, some of the inner fights that I was going through, and I'm sure you can relate to these. And by doing so, what we'll do inside of the back end of this show is I'll go into how to win that inner fight, some tactical things, okay, and some principles to win the war within. What I ask is that if you find value in it, just please share it with a friend. Hit subscribe on YouTube, save it, and just pass it along to help us fulfill our mission, okay? So in order to dive into these principles to win the war within, I got to share a little bit of a story with you guys. So to get everybody, like I said, on the same page. So my wife recently, I was asking her as I was preparing for today's show, I said, hey, a lot of guys and gals, they saw what happened from 2023 to 2026. And, fast forward to today, life is a lot different for me personally. And I'm on the other side of some tremendous pain. And my hope for you is that you get to the other side of the pain that you're in. But what happened across the last 10 months or so is I took massive action on confronting and fixing the inner wars inside of myself. And if you didn't know, I was diagnosed with PTSD last year, and I've had it for a long time, but I was undiagnosed. So I was struggling, man. And for over 10 years, I have been struggling, and maybe this is you. Depression. Okay. Peaks and valleys with my energy. Massive irritability. I'll just be a little bit vulnerable here and just be honest. I've struggled with suicidal ideations across the last 10 plus years. And that's not a good place to be, right? I'm really pretty much, I'm fed up talking about the PTSD diagnosis that I was given in a disempowering way. And today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I want to preface that with saying that I'm done with any type of victim-minded narratives around PTSD. I'm done. I think what I'm trying to say is that in all of our lives, we're going to have bad shit happen to us. And at some point, you have to make a decision on whether you're going to keep reliving the damn story and talking about it, or if you're going to move past it. If you're going to identify the problem and move forward. And so, I thought it was very important to talk about the PTSD diagnosis, but I'm not going to keep revisiting it over and over and over and over again. That's not the core thing that I want to talk about from my life, and I want to move beyond it. It will come up from time to time, but the point is, in your life, I know that you are going through issues where you feel very, very frustrated with yourself, because that was me as I was going through all these PTSD related issues and symptoms that I had. I'd lash out on somebody, or I'd want to just constantly quit on myself, and it was just mental warfare inside of my head. And the thing is that as I was preparing for the show, I asked my wife, I said, hey, so you've seen a lot of changes in me in the last 10 months. What is extraordinary from your lens about where I'm at now versus where I was when I started working on the PTSD? And she said, to be completely honest, some people go their whole lives living in a place where everything broke for them, and they never make a change. In other words, some people go their whole lives broken where you were, and they never move past it. And she said, you're making changes and you're seeing results, and that's extraordinary. The changes that I've seen recently, I'll give you a small little example. All right. So when I would ride my bike down the road for an early morning workout, it's funny how little things for all of us can become big things. And what I mean is, I'd be driving down the road on my bike, and if a car just came alongside me, I would get hyper vigilant, I would snap, I would get irritated, and I'd want to I mean, to be completely honest, I'd want to just run over to the driver, pull him out of his car, and beat the living shit out of him. And even if they didn't, they weren't even doing anything threatening me, it was just a reaction that I had. And I carried a lot of guilt about those reactions because I was constantly self-regulating and then feeling bad about wanting to lash out. So we all have that inside of us where you have this guilt about not behaving the way that you want to behave, and guilt around acting in the way that you don't want to act, So part of all of our issues, personal problems, is that, we have the issue itself, the lashing out, and then we have how we're dealing with it afterwards, right? The guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, the self-embarrassment, like that stuff eats at you across time. A lot of people, when life comes crumbling down on top of them, they just think that maybe they were diagnosed with PTSD. They just say, well, now my life's screwed. I'm stuck with PTSD my whole life. I can't advance any further. And for me, what ended up happening was once I was diagnosed this whole last year, I just went all in on treatments. And some of the things that I've done to work on my mental health and to work on the symptoms that I have around the PTSD is I've met with, therapists. The first thing I did is I met with 2 doctors, got 2 separate evaluations to make sure that the one doctor's assessment was correct. I went to a psych, I went to a therapist, I went and I did a bunch of wellness treatments at a nonprofit. Everything from red light therapy to hyperbaric chambers to brainwave training to, all sorts of wellness related therapy to help a person's nervous system. So I did that. I went to a chiropractor who specialized in helping people with PTSD and nervous system issues. Then on top of that, I continued going to those places, and recently I started doing ketamine therapy. So now, I went on my bike ride. I'm riding down the road, and this car, this was earlier this week. This car rolls up, and I felt my nervous system get startled. But the difference was that I didn't physically react. I didn't get irate. I didn't get tense. My muscles didn't flex. I didn't squeeze my handlebars and get so tense from the spike that I changed anything about the way that I was riding. I just noticed the startle, and physically I stayed flat, which is a big breakthrough. Huge breakthrough for me. Okay? And what I'm trying to convey is that in the last year, I've seen measurable results with the different modalities that I've used to get these symptoms to minimize. And that being one of them. That's a big leap for me. Imagine going your whole day being constantly in fight or flight and just being so stressed. I know many of you guys are. You're so stressed out all the time. From the time you wake up, maybe you got kids, maybe you got a busy job, maybe you're just constantly in a state of go. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, maybe even throughout the night, you don't have PTSD, but maybe you have the same type of issues of hypervigilance, cortisol, stress, adrenaline, fatigue, okay? And that wears on you. And if your body never gets a chance to, if you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, your body never gets a chance to rest. And little by little, that can lead to burnout and just mild depression for many of you. So wouldn't it be nice if you didn't feel that way? If you woke up and you felt refreshed, if, in your scenario, the car drives by and instead of getting startled, you go into work and there's craziness happening, you don't even flinch, you're fine, you're at peace, you feel happy anyway. You're not lashing out. So, the thing that my wife said was that some people go their whole lives living in a place of struggle after they broke. They just tolerate it. They tolerate living in that horrible state. And she's like, you're not. You're continuing to move forward. You've maintained your physical health. You have seen progress with the symptoms. And you're becoming a better man from it. It's unfortunate that so many of us are carrying we all carry a lot of weight, man. We all carry a lot of pressure. We all carry a lot of stress. And many of you are going around in your day-to-day, and it's unrecognizable to anybody else except for yourself. Your wife, your kids, your friends, they all think that you're fine, but deep down inside, you know you're not. And that actually makes the whole journey even harder, and getting out of the state of struggle even harder, because to everybody else, you seem okay, and nobody's really extending you a helping hand. They're just watching you go through your life, and deep down inside, you know something needs to change. You know, most people, when their life comes crashing down, what ends up happening is it's a lot like being out at sea on a ship. You know, their ship gets a hole in it, or their ship crashes, and then that's their life crashing, and then they wash up on the shoreline, and they're on an island by themselves. And when most people's lives crash, they just sit on that island and they stay miserable. You know, they get sunburned, or they might not even build their own shelter. They might just not even attempt to improve the way that they're living on the island. They'll just sit there and tolerate, and essentially just give up and eventually die. You know, most people, when they reach a bad spot in life, they tolerate it. They don't fix it. And that's unacceptable, man. You have to stop telling yourself the story that you're okay. You know, you have to stop telling yourself that you're fine. And you're not. You're on an island. You're by yourself. You're getting sunburnt. Your life sucks. It's not where you want it to be. Once you get clear that your life is not where you want it to be, now we can actually make progress. And you can become the other type of man. The other type of man is one that when he crashes on that island, he gets to work. He improves his living situation. He takes care of his food, his water, his shelter. He gets that all set up. And then he starts building his escape plan. He builds himself a little ship, and he gets off that damn island. And he gets himself to a life that he actually enjoys. When I came down here to Florida, you know, I came down here to level up. I knew that leveling up meant that I was going to hit a storm. And that's what happened in 2023 to 2026. So I was prepared for, you know, crashing and burning and getting washed up on the island and fixing things. The main thing that is important for everybody here that's listening to this, that you guys that are watching and listening, is that when you're on that island and it seems like all hope is lost, you know, you feel either you feel broken, you feel just like giving up and quitting. The main thing is that the key, the catalyst that's going to cause you to keep going is winning the inner fight. So now that I got through like sharing a little bit about what I've been going through over the years, I'm going to dive into some principles that can help you win the inner fight and feel good about your life, man. Okay, so the first one is if you want your life to change, it's crazy because most people would say yes to that. Most people would say, yeah, I want my life to change. And when you ask them about what they need to do it, they would know what to do. Yeah, I want to lose weight. I want my life to change. I need to go to the gym. I need to eat better. Or I want to have more time with my family. You know, they know what they want and they know what they need to do. Oh, I just need to stop staying so late at work and I need to go home. Or, you know, they know that they're getting complacent and they need to stop getting lazy and they need to do something that challenges them and pushes them, but they don't do it. In today's world, we don't have an information problem, we have an application problem. So if you were to sit with any person with half a brain cell, they're going to tell you, I know what I need to do. But it's like, why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing the things to change your life? And the biggest issue that causes a person to not improve their life and to lose the inner fight, okay, where the inner fight in this example is, you know what you need to do, but you're not doing it. The inner fight is, how do I get myself, I know what I need to do, and I'm not doing it. How do I close that gap? We call it the knowing doing gap. That's the framework. You know what you need to do, but you're not doing it. And here's the gap. So how do you close the knowing doing gap? Well, the first thing is radical accountability. We all know about accountability, right? We've heard that term get tossed around on social media, and at this point, it kind of makes me sick to even say that word because it gets so overused. Hold yourself accountable, hold yourself accountable. It just sounds like some platitude, right? But radical accountability is different. Radical accountability means every single day, if you really, really, truly want to win that inner fight, every single day, you get to the honest truth about your situation. You're complacent. So I've worked with hundreds of people over the years, and I'll tell you guys this. The thing that causes people to stay stuck is that they take big problems and make them a little deal. And then they take little problems and make them a big deal. That is a recipe for staying stuck in life. What people do that get out of stuck and change their actual life is they identify the big problems in their life and they treat them as big problems. Complacency is not a little problem. Being fat is not a little problem. Being broke is not a little problem. Having no time is not a little problem. In order to create the lasting change that you want in your life, you have to take radical accountability, which means being brutally honest with yourself every single day about where you're lying to yourself and where you're minimizing the issues in your life. Radical accountability is not creating awareness. Oh my gosh, I have a bad situation and I know I need to change. That's not radical accountability. Radical accountability is identifying the key problem that you're minimizing and then doing something about it that day. Okay? It's saying it out loud. It's writing it. It's, speaking it to people that are close to you. Confessing where you're slipping. Confessing where you're wrong. Announcing where you're messing up. I did this coaching call the other day and one of my clients came on and I love hearing about the wins. And so everybody gives me their wins and I love it. But after they gave me their win, the question I asked them is, I said, great, you gave me the win. Now tell me about the challenge. Tell me where you weren't perfect all week. I want you to lead with your challenge. Tell me on this call, in this last week you struggled? Where did you struggle with your following through on your training? Where did you struggle following through with your nutrition? What commitments did you bail on this last week? Let's be radically accountable in this moment. If you want to create lasting change in your life, you're going to have to be radically accountable. Personally, what that looks like for me, if I can give you guys a tactic, the thing that I use every single day is my journal. I've journaled every single day since 2017, and I missed one day in the last, almost closing in on 10 years now, and I'll never do that again. But what's your process for holding yourself accountable to your commitments? What's your process for for calling yourself out on your own excuses and not waiting for somebody else to do it for you? How do you create radical accountability in your life? Goggins talks about the accountability mirror. He says he wakes up, he writes all of his weaknesses and his problems on the mirror on a sticky note, and he goes to work working on those. What's your system to create radical accountability in your life around the areas that you want to see changed? Okay. So if you want to close the knowing doing gap, you want to win that inner fight, get yourself to stop just knowing what to do, but actually execute on doing it. You're going to have to create radical accountability in your life. You're going to have to become radically accountable. The second principle for you to win the inner fight is to create self-discipline. Self-discipline. A lot of people mess up discipline. They think that discipline is doing things. No, motherfucker. Discipline is correcting yourself when you don't want to do the thing. When you have a kid or a dog and you're correcting them, when you're disciplining them, you're telling them what not to do. Okay? I've got 2 American bullies. My wife is a dog trainer, expert at it. She can do everything from basic obedience to service animal training. And dogs will do whatever the hell they want to do. They'll jump on the couch, they'll chew on stuff, and the whole thing about training a dog is you're constantly telling them what not to do. You're disciplining the dog. So when you're creating self-discipline in your own life, many of you are only focused on telling yourself to do things. And instead, self-discipline, what it comes down to, is correcting yourself when you don't want to do the thing. The benefit of self-discipline is that it creates momentum. And momentum is like a fire, right? You start a little tiny fire and it gets a little flame, and as you add kindle into it, it gets louder and louder and louder, and next thing you know, you have a large fire. Well, with self-discipline, it works the same way. Once you start correcting yourself on the small things, it builds and it builds and it builds and it compounds. And the next thing you know, you have that bonfire that you always wanted. But the moment you stop tending to that fire, it goes out. So you have to feed self-discipline to yourself every single day. And this is what most people get wrong about radical accountability and holding themselves accountable and self-discipline. Most people think that that holding themselves accountable and being disciplined is something that they should do occasionally. But these are areas that you got to focus on daily. In other words, one of the biggest killers of self-discipline and accountability is pretending like tomorrow is an acceptable time to make up for your mistakes. If you want to be more disciplined, you want to create the change in your life, tomorrow can never exist. Tomorrow is a lie. This idea that you can follow through on your training tomorrow, the idea that you can, whatever problem it is that you're in your life, starting tomorrow is always a lie. And you have to cut off the idea of tomorrow if you want to be disciplined, if you want to have self-discipline. Whenever I bring this topic up of self-discipline, people are like, yeah, I understand, I need to just do, and I need to stop doing this. Okay. But it's like, what are the mechanics behind self-discipline? Like, how do you actually, as a person, make yourself not do things and execute on what you say you're going to? You won't learn this on any social media content. You're not going to hear people will tell you like to be disciplined and whatnot, but they don't ever break down how to do it. And it's most of the time it's because they're all just regurgitating somebody else's shit. I'm going to give you some techniques to create self-discipline in your life. All right. Now, if you want to give yourself a command and follow it, say what you're going to do and do it over and over and over again, these keys right here to self-discipline will help you tremendously. When it comes to creating self-discipline, the first thing that you have to do is you have to command your self-talk. Okay, letting yourself off the hook, not following through on your commitments, bailing on your promises, giving up on yourself, being lazy. All of those things happen from self-talk. They happen because of how you're talking to yourself. All action, remember this, all action stems from self-talk. You always, your mind has your conscious mind and your subconscious mind running all the time. And your subconscious mind is running the majority of the time. You have a habit of the way that you talk to yourself. Do this, don't do this, whatnot. And you don't have to really think hard about the decisions that you're making. You're just executing on them, right? Well, if you have bad self-talk inside, where you're always bailing on your commitments, not following through on your promises, maybe you're that person that's late everywhere, it's all driven from the way that you're talking to yourself. So the biggest hack to creating self-discipline in your life is by commanding how you're talking to yourself. I once heard John Gordon say this. He said, talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. And I thought that was really good. I know that's a self-improvement quote that's been tossed around quite a bit, but it's true. If you want to create self-discipline in your life, talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. when you command your self-talk, what you're really doing is you're not just giving yourself an instruction to carry out a task. What you're doing is creating a new man. And that's what your transformation really comes down to. When you want change in your life, all change starts with the change within, right? Like the world is not like the way that we all live, like your reality. I don't know what job you have or what business you have or the family that you have, the car that you drive, the clothes that you wear. Everything that we interact with as individuals and everything that you have in your life is an outward expression of what's going on inside. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And life, your life, is just one giant expression of what's going on inside. So if you want a different life, a different reality, new car, different time, you want to spend your time differently, you want more fun, more happiness, you want more time with your kids, you want more play, you want better results in your business. All of these external results first start by changing what's happening within. Okay, we only get in life who we are. Yeah? You wouldn't expect a person that doesn't think very highly of themselves, who isn't very disciplined at all, has literally no disciplined habits, wakes up late, smokes weed all day, drinks in the evening, has a bunch of bad habits. You wouldn't expect that person to have a millionaire's lifestyle. So if we want to change the lifestyle, we have to change us. And self-discipline is the path to changing us. Whenever you control your self-talk, whenever you command your self-talk, I want you to remember that. You're not just creating discipline, you're becoming a new man. The next method that I have for you to help you create self-discipline is that I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but if you want to create self-discipline, you have to destroy the story that's holding you back. Tomorrow is where your discipline goes to die. If you ever catch yourself saying you'll do it tomorrow, realize that you are killing your discipline. It's very natural when things get hard to say that you're not going to follow through now, that you'll do it tomorrow. That's a normal human response. And it's your duty as the man that wants to change his life to discipline your thinking, to not allowing tomorrow to even be a concept inside of your head. You have to accept that today is the only day that you can win, that tomorrow is not guaranteed, it doesn't exist, it's a hypothetical that hasn't happened yet. You have to ground yourself in reality, which is in the present moment. The thing is, man, is that if you struggle with self-discipline, you're not weak. You just have a habit of telling yourself that tomorrow is a choice. It's not. The next principle that I have for you to create self-discipline, tell me if you've been in this situation before. You were like getting ready to go to the gym and you started feeling anxious and you had something going on in your work that you felt like you needed to do, that it was more important. You're like, work is more urgent, it's more important, I got to go do that thing. I said I was going to go to the gym and now I'm not really feeling it. Maybe I'll just do it tomorrow. And you start squirming out of the commitment, right? The idea of going to the gym or following through on the task that you said you were going to do becomes so overwhelming. It makes you anxious, you get tense. The problem becomes a mountain inside of your mind. Remember what I said earlier? You're making a big thing or a small thing into a big mountain. You're like, oh my God. I'm going to go if I go to the gym, then it's going to take this much, it's going to take this much out of me. I'm not going to be able to do this later with so-and-so. And you create all these problems inside of your head over this simple little task. It becomes so overwhelming. You're like, you just let yourself off the hook. Well, when the overwhelm kicks in, if you want to be more self-disciplined, the key is to focus on time, not the task. And what I mean by that is I had this squad leader when I was in the Rangers, and he said one of the ways that he got through Ranger school was that he used to tell himself, you can't stop the clock. In other words, Ranger School, you could be there for 62 days, you could be there for a year, kind of depending on how your evaluations go and what you pass and what you fail. But he said what helped him mentally get through Ranger School was reminding himself that no matter what, as long as he kept going, eventually the time was going to end and he was going to be on the other side. So when I say focus on time, not the task, what I mean is that whatever commitment that you have in front of you, reduce it to the ridiculous. I'm using the gym right now as an example, but if you have a workout to go do and it takes an hour and you're stressing about that hour destroying your whole day, you've lost the battle. You've lost the inner war. And what you have to do is reduce it mentally to the ridiculous and tell yourself it's only an hour or it's only 30 minutes. Focus more on the time, not the task, and that'll help you take command of the inner self-talk. The next thing that I have for you to help you create self-discipline is self-discipline and executing on what you say you're going to do. It comes down to how you're talking to yourself, like I said, right? So how do you change how you're talking to yourself? Well, my mentor taught me, change your input, you'll change your output. Which means what you read, what you listen to, and who you talk to all influence the thoughts that are going inside of your mind. So if you want to create new thoughts, you got to ingest different books, different audios, and be around different people to plant those seeds inside of your mind. We become what we ingest, right? You ever heard that saying, you are what you eat? It's true, but that's not just true with food. It's true for where you're getting your information. It's true for how you're developing your mindset. So if you want to create a stronger mind, you're going to have to brainwash yourself and you're going to have to change your input. Get positive information flooding inside of that thing from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Start your day. One of the things I do is I start my day with reading. It could just be a quote. Start my day with reading a quote. I didn't have good reading habits when I was younger. And to develop the habit of reading, I just started with quotes. You can teach an uneducated man about life with quotes. That's one that I picked up along the way. It's true. But the habit of planting positive information into your mind, it creates a garden of positive information inside of your head, a positive mindset that helps you execute the task and be self-disciplined. Okay? A lot of you guys are listening to negative people all the time, people that aren't disciplined, people that quit on themselves too. You're going to absorb their thoughts and their way of life. So protect your mind. Change your input, you'll change your output. The next thing that I have for you to help you build self-discipline is, one of the biggest things that's holding you back when it comes to being disciplined is that you're trying to do the right things in the wrong order. There's disciplined people that exist out there and they do things a certain way, but you keep doing them your old way. You keep doing them the version of you that is holding you back. You keep putting off your workouts till later, but it's not working. And if your way is not working, you need to adopt the way of a disciplined man. Adopt the way of the person that's succeeding at what you want to do. Your ego is what's stopping you from doing what other people are doing that's working. You think that you're special. You think that their situation's not your situation. That you should do it your way. Your way is not working. Wake up. Okay? You're in the rut that you're in because you keep trying to do it your way. Stop doing it your way. If you want to become self-disciplined, what you have to do is align your time and your habits to the better version of you. Get in alignment with the better version of you, which means picture how the best version of you lives their day and then live your day as that person. Transformation is very, very, very difficult, and changing your life is very, very difficult. I'm breaking these things down to you guys because many of you guys have achieved great things in your life. For me, achievement was a struggle, and in order for me to achieve anything, I focused on changing myself. So when I was an enlisted soldier in the military and I wanted to become an officer, and become a ranger and then become an entrepreneur, my approach, how I approach those things, is I looked at the people that were ahead of me and I adopted their behaviors, and I started adopting their habits and the way that they lived their lives, the books that they read, and I modeled them like Tony Robbins teaches. I modeled them to become more like them. And that was the only way I learned how to change my life and go from the bottom of the military to the top of the military, and to get out of my 9-to-5 and create a business for myself and create a life of freedom, was by modeling the people that were ahead of me. Some people are just fortunate. They have luck. They're around the right people. They can tell them exactly what to do and they can just go out and do it. Nah, for Jeramiah, I had to study massively. I had to study the people that were winning, and I had to deconstruct what they were doing and then figure out how to get myself to do those things so that my life would change. So if you really truly want to become self-disciplined, what I'm telling you is to align your time, how you spend your habits, how you spend your day, to the better version of you. How does the best version of you live their life from the time that they wake up to the time they go to sleep? Okay? One thing I want you to remember when it comes to aligning your time to the better version of you is that you're like I wrote down this. You're not going to become an 8-figure earner with a 5-figure schedule. You know what I'm saying? And that just goes for every facet of life. You're not going to be the fit guy with a fat lifestyle. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So we have to align ourselves to the best version of ourselves. Okay. The fact of the matter is that the world is not full of people that are doing extraordinary things. The world is full of people doing ordinary things. It's full of people doing just regular. The status quo is a bunch of people that do the bare minimum and expect a lot. So you're set up kind of to fail, because the people that you're probably around are not strivers and achievers. They're people that are just focused on their little their little environment of life. They're not trying to grow and expand and go out and conquer and destroy things. They're just focused on settling. If you're only around those type of people, you're going to struggle massively with your personal growth. So to recap so far, we talked about 2 principles to win the inner fight, which was radical accountability and self-discipline. Then I went and broke down a bunch of different strategies to help you with self-discipline, and with it starting with self-talk, how you're talking to yourself, because self-talk creates self-action. The 3rd principle to win the war within. Once you have a little bit of momentum in life, okay, when you're taking accountability for your shortcomings, your failures, your personal performance, your discipline, and then you're being disciplined on a daily basis, you got a little bit of momentum. What's going to happen next is that you're gonna get this little bit of momentum, and what most people end up doing is they stop trying to build the momentum, and it fades, and then they're right back to square one. So we don't want to do that. You want to keep your momentum going, and not just in one area of life, but all areas of life. Okay, so say you start out and you get yourself to be disciplined to go to the gym. You got that. It's going boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now the next thing you need to do is get yourself to be more disciplined in your business, right? Okay, I'm doing more sales. I'm doing more outreach. I'm getting more revenue going. Okay, now the thing that I need to do next and to get some momentum in is my marriage. How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better boyfriend, girlfriend, wife? And you start being disciplined in that area, taking your wife out on more dates, because you used to tell her that you didn't have the time and you were so busy, but now you're being disciplined. You're executing on the things you say you're going to do. You create more time for your family life, and your guys are going out on more dates. You got that. You got some momentum going there. And then maybe in your faith, right? You started picking up whatever your spiritual beliefs are. You started studying spirituality. You started studying some religion, and you got some momentum going there with your faith. Now you have these areas of life that have got some momentum. And life at this point feels pretty good. When you get your fitness and health in order, you get your marriage in order, you get your business and your career in order, and you're working on your faith, you're growing spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and your life is starting to get some massive momentum. This is a great spot to be. Okay. Now, in order to keep this momentum going and not get burnt out or not quit on yourself when things are going well, what's going to happen is that the inner fight that happens at this level is that you convince yourself that you should bring the fitness down, or you should stop. You should give yourself a break and let off the gas and just stop with it completely. Give yourself a week off from training, or something like that. It's a huge mistake to let your foot off the gas once you have some momentum. So, but also the inner war, what ends up happening is you're battling yourself because you know that you can't maintain this pace forever. You're like, dude, I got to give myself a little bit of a break somehow. Okay. So the third principle to win the inner fight is to rotate your priorities and keep them in momentum. Hang with me here. This is a very important thing. So when I was an officer in the Ranger Regiment, one of the things that they taught us was how to rotate our priorities throughout the week so that our guys didn't get burnt out. Priorities are very, very important in life. People think they understand them. They don't. What they really are, priorities aren't just what you're going to focus on. They're actually what you're going to, they're important because they tell you what not to focus on. As officers in the regiment, we would pass down the priorities to our guys, and we would say, hey, priority number 1 is marksmanship. Priority number 2 is fitness. Priority number 3 is admin. And what that meant was it gave them the most important areas that we needed to focus on as a team in order. So that way, as other things jumped on them, other responsibilities and tasks, maybe somebody told them that we had a training that we needed to do in 6 months, and they needed to go down to range control and start planning for this range. They could say, no, we're not going to go do that. We have to focus on these 3 priorities. Number 1, marksmanship. Number 2, fitness. And number 3, admin related stuff at the office. So the most important thing that priorities do is they tell you what you're not going to focus on, and they rank the things that you're going to focus on in order of importance. So when it comes to your life, personally, what I do is I have 4 goals that I'm working on at any given point in time. And every week I'm clear about what number 1 is, 2, 3, and 4. So if you want to win the inner fight, not get burnt out, it's very important that you keep momentum going in each area of life that you're focused on growing. But the sweet spot is rotating your priorities. What that looks like is maybe fitness is number 1 for week 1. And you're like, I'm going to go into the gym, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to push myself super hard. Intensity is going to be high, workouts are going to be high, and focus is going to be high. And I'm going to hit PRs, I'm going to really push myself. By week 3 or 4, you tell yourself, hey, fitness this week is number 3, the third of my priority list, which means I'm going to take a recovery week. I'm going to bring my workout time down from 90 minutes to 60 minutes or 30 minutes. And I'm going to focus on red light sauna and I'm going to stay on top of my workout habits, but I'm going to bring the intensity down. So it's very important that you rotate your priorities so that way in your head, you don't feel like you're getting burnt out and you don't stop the momentum in the areas of life that you're seeing momentum in. Now, I talk about the gym and fitness a lot because it's the easiest thing to understand, but the same principles apply to your finance, the same principles apply to your marriage, the same principles apply to your business. Rotating your priorities is very important, not just for you, but for the people around you. The last thing that I have here as we start wrapping this up, I know I came at you guys with some different energy today, but I speak and I share these lessons with you, not to talk at you. You know, I know what it's like to be on all different levels of being stuck. I know what it's like to be to be in the sticking point where you're absolutely frustrated and pissed off. I know what it's like to have a little bit of momentum. I know what it's like to be complacent. And I'm not here to sit here and say that I'm the fucking man when it comes to high performance. I'm just sharing the things that have worked for me to get through the hardest seasons of my life. Okay. And this is what I've discovered, and take it for what it's worth. We're on the same team, you and I. I just think that I hate seeing people really struggle with what they're trying to create in their life. And I want to see you guys win. And I'm really hoping that you take action on the tools I've given here. And I know that if you use them, you will get a breakthrough. So I give you all this great information. You know, you're motivated, you're fired up, but what's going to actually hold a person back once they have the information? And it's that they don't actually want to change. You know, all decisions in life are made in advance. Like look at cheating on either your spouse, your diet, or quitting on a workout. Those examples, You make the decision ahead of time of what's acceptable and what's not. If you really, like, for most people, the thing that holds them back from creating change in their life is they haven't made the firm commitment that they're going to change. And that's paramount, man. You have to make the commitment. And the only way you're going to make the commitment is if the things are so bad that you have to, you're forced to. That's what I've noticed over the years. So spend some time in the pain when you hold yourself accountable. Realize how bad it hurts to stay where you're at. Realize how shitty life's going to be in 5 years, 10 years. Hell, if you even make it that far based off of how things are going. Be real with yourself. Because none of this matters. None of this information I'm giving you, none of these strategies matter if deep down inside you know you're not going to change. Pretty good shit today, guys. I hope you liked the episode. I'll recap basically the 3 principles that I gave you to win the inner war is: number 1, radical accountability. Number 2 is self-discipline. And number 3 is clear priorities, shuffling your priorities. And if you do those 3 things, then you'll be more successful at winning the war within. It's still going to take a lot of work. It's, taken me decades to get to this level of awareness and execution that I have today. But I'll tell you, after going through everything I went through in the last several years and getting to where I'm at right now with my own personal problems and challenges, I'm feeling good. I'm firing on all cylinders. I still have some residual issues that I'm dealing with, and it's but I'm not going to be a victim to those things, right? I'm not going to be a victim to PTSD and say, oh, I got PTSD, I can't build my business now. Oh, I have PTSD, I can't do this and this now. I just give up and roll over. I'm not doing that. And no matter how hard your life is, you might have it worse than me. You might have it not as worse as me, but it's all relative. And no matter where you're at, being a victim of what's going on with you is not the way to go. So let's kill that mindset. Let's move forward. And I hope this episode today inspired you. I hope it helps remove you as the bottleneck in your own life transformation. If it did, please just share it with a friend. Maybe drop a comment down below. Let me know what you like the most. And that'll inspire me to keep coming back and giving you guys more and more content. Okay? All right, guys. I love you all. Until next time, be the leader.